Kill him. Hello everyone and welcome to another board game review from the Broken Meeple. And today this one has been requested by a lot of people, particularly as the original version was so widely regarded and so sought after. I'm talking today about, it's a heavy box, Colosseum, specifically the Tasty Minstrel Games reprint. Now Days of Wonder did this quite a few years back and it was quite popular at the time, but then it went out of print. Since then, it's been highly sought after, and on the second-hand market, you can expect to pay stupid amounts of money for this game. And certainly, I don't recommend that you do that, because honestly, some people are really trying to rip some others off for out-of-print games at the moment, and like I say, you have this one right here. Of course, is this one any good, and was Colosseum any good in the first place? Well, I got to play the Days of Wonder version a couple of times before I got my hands on this one. And then played this one a couple of times, and the rules are, as far as I can tell, exactly the same. They are identical rules. So essentially what you are getting is a different graphic design, a different set of components, but you are getting, at its nature, the core game of Colosseum right here. Colosseum has you basically putting on shows for the Emperor, and it has an interesting little mix of mechanics. It's got a little bit of everything, really, when you think about it, but too much for me to talk in this little introduction, so why don't I give you a quick overview of how this game plays and what you have to do in it. Colosseum involves players putting on shows, races, gladiator competitions and other events to appease the masses and of course the Emperor. You are not actually participating in any of the shows, you are setting them up. You are hiring gladiators and poets and musicians and priests, getting horses, scenery, decorations, torches, you name it, you're trying to get it for your show. The game takes place over 5 rounds, during which you will put on your shows to earn money whilst upgrading your arena in various ways and inviting nobles to come and visit your shows when you put them on. The winner of the game is the person who puts on the best show over the course of the 5 rounds. You do not track victory points like you normally do in any other game, instead you simply score your highest show, which typically ends up being the 4th or the 5th round. Players will start off by investing in their arena, either expanding the size or adding season tickets or special lodges for the Emperor himself. Players will then try to acquire various assets to go in their play, be it horses for gladiators to ride, lions to, well, eat people I guess, chariots, decorations, ships, musicians, you name it, you need it for your show. This will take place in a standard bidding mechanic in which players bid for various sets of tokens that represent all the assets. After which, players can trade with each other to acquire assets that they didn't already have, very much like you would in a game of Catan. Once that's done, you will then roll a dice to see where the nobles will move across the board, and you're hoping for them to land in your arena because this will get more spectators to come and visit you. But once that's done, it's time to put on the show. This is when you will use the asset tokens to facilitate the programs that you are intending to run. If you are short, it's not the end of the world, but it will score you less points. If you have the most of a particular asset, you may even have a star performer in your mix that will help you gain extra spectators. But of course, this can be lost if other players surpass you in this field. Putting on a decent show will get you money equal to the number of spectators, which takes place for various modifiers, but then also this money will come in handy in later turns to finance and invest your arena. Players will continue doing this over the course of 5 rounds, in which you will score your highest play during the game. So that's a general overview of Colosseum. You'll note that I didn't go into too much detail with the rules. That's because I'm trying to change things a bit. I get bored just doing rules videos and just talking aimlessly about this mechanic does this and this mechanic does that. You'll notice that I am just trying to give you an overview of what you do in this game. What's the theme? What is your object to do in this? And as you can tell, you're putting on plays, and a lot of the fun comes from putting on those plays and acting it out. I will stress a caveat though. The rules in this game are very easy. They're not difficult at all. There's a little bit of fiddliness when it comes to like who can bid in and who can't during the auction phase, but it's relatively easy to grasp after maybe a round or two, and certainly by the end of the first game you'll know exactly how it works. But there is a caveat I have to mention. The third phase, where you can trade with each other, is normally done by the active player trading first, then the next player becomes the active player and they trade, etc, etc. This is normally regarded, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but by me, the Dice Tower, and many other people, this is regarded as a stupid rule.
Objection!
Because all it does is that it clunks up the game and it essentially stretches it out. So what I suggest, and this is what others will do as well, is that you simply make the trading phase like Catan. Just make it free-for-all trading. Free-for-all trading. You basically just go and trade with whoever you can, first come, first serve, everyone's shouting out deals, and that's a lot more fun. The other caveat I will stress with this is that if you were to play this as a normal game, sort of, well, that's the wrong word, as a normal Euro game, i.e. nice and quiet, the game would actually be relatively dry. I mean, yeah, there's a good amount of theme in this game just from the what you're doing, the tokens, investing in the arena, but that would be about it. What really does elevate this though is when people roleplay the shows they put on. If you've ever watched the Dice Tower live marathons, they do the same thing in their games, and I make it a standard mandatory rule that people have to roleplay the shows they're doing. Now that doesn't mean you gotta stand on the table, do weird dances or anything like that, no. But when you're putting on, say, the Gladiators of Spartacus or something as a show, and it requires some gladiators and some horses and some scenery, then at least tell us what's in the show. And this can lead to some hilarious laughs as people put on these obscure weird shows with bizarre endings, and it's even better when you're missing certain parts of the program. Like, I have had a game where somebody did a parade of lions as a show. I didn't have any lions. So that was a bit of a short parade, and you will get good times like that if you just make it it's a rule, but just let people ease into the theme and start explaining their shows, and believe me, it will elevate this game to a new level. So in terms of the components, this is a big factor with this reprint, because everybody loves the Days of Wonder 1, and can't blame them. The Days of Wonder 1 looks very pretty and it's done great because, well, it's Days of Wonder, what do you expect? Their component quality is next to none when it comes to all of their games, I think. Colosseum is now done by Tasty Minstrel Games, and their component quality is hit and miss when it comes to most of their games. Generally though, the component quality in this is very good. Not perfect, but very, very good. I mean, this is a very heavy... you probably can't tell the weight from just the picture, but this is quite heavy, and there's a lot of stuff in here. You've got to punch out a lot of tokens, you've got metal coins, you've got one of the thickest game boards I have ever seen. I swear you could use it as a bludgeoning instrument. And you've got character meeples, big solid wooden meeples that have etched designs on them, but they even give you some stickers to stick over them if you don't like that design. I personally have not bothered. I'm fine with the meeples as they are, and I don't like to waste my time with stickers anyway. I kind of get annoyed when the game wants to make you put stickers on. But there's been a lot of controversy with this about, oh, it looks nothing like the Days of Wonder 1, and oh, it's too horrible, and this art looks horrendous. It's actually relatively good. It's not bad artwork, it's generally quite good artwork. The difference is, though, is that this definitely looks more cartoony compared to the Days of Wonder version. And I think that puts off a few people. Because, I mean, if you look at the front of the box, that does look quite cartoony in how it looks. And, well, fair enough. If that's not your style, then it may annoy you during this game. But, to be fair, the artwork in this is generally alright. The board is not cluttered, you can tell what's going on, the tokens are easy to distinguish, it's... it still looks decent. And on top of that, you get the metal coins, and you get lots of cardboard tokens, and you get the wooden meeples. There's not a cube in sight, thank God.
Objection!
You've got arena, cardboard pieces that you put on your board. You've got wooden blocks for the season tickets that look like seats in a theatre, and stuff like that. There's quite a lot in this box. You're getting your money's worth without a shadow of a doubt. It takes a while to punch out everything, but put it that way. And yeah, like I say, I can't really fault that this is a good quality component level game. Granted, whether you like the Days of Wonder 1 more, or this one more, remains to be seen. Days of Wonder had some, improvement, well, it was better in maybe case the artwork and some of the various components, but this one has metal coins and lots of wooden block tokens and that, so take it or leave either one. Both of them are good, except the Days of Wonder out of print one is going to cost you an arm and a leg, whereas this one still won't cost you a little bit of money. It will cost you an arm, but it won't cost you an arm and a leg, put it that way. It's still a decent enough reprint for the money. So in general, do I enjoy the game? And the answer is yes, a lot. Like I said, with those 2 rule caveats in mind, I think if you played by the official rules and you didn't get into the theme and roleplay it, I think this would actually be relatively dry and some people might find it a little boring. But believe me, when you have the free-fall trading and you just get into the theme, it comes alive. It really does. I get a kick out of doing the show role plays and laughing at what everybody else is doing. You've put on this show, now you've got to get rid of one of your asset tokens after putting on the show. Which one's it going to be? Oh, it was this guy because the emperor didn't like his poetry and therefore had him executed or something. I don't know. You can come up with any weird and wonderful excuse you like, and it's just great to do that. But the gameplay is very smooth. The phases are laid out very clearly. Each player does their turn before the next person, and it doesn't feel clunky. It doesn't feel like things are getting tangled up in places or whatever. It's very smooth flowing, and that is one thing that is good. In many games that are as old as this one, really, there was a good sense of streamlining with some of their games. This one feels streamlined. It doesn't feel clunky, with maybe that slight fiddliness in the auction phase, but the rest of it, first phase, invest in something. Here's your 4 choices. They cost this much. They do this. That's the first phase. Second phase, bid on the assets. Third phase, trade the assets. Fourth phase, roll the nobles and put on a show. It's very smooth. Now, I mentioned rolling. This has a roll and move mechanic where the nobles are on the edge of the board and they basically roll a die and you move the nobles in order to try and get them into your theatre or skip other players. Now, we usually rag on roll and move quite a lot in this industry, don't we, as being an ancient and frankly defunct mechanic that nobody should ever use. Well, it's in this game, but it's not the be-all or end-all of the game. Yes, there's an element of luck to this. You draw the asset tokens out of a bag for the auction, you do roll the dice for nobles, but you can mitigate that luck in a couple of ways, and it's not so wild swinging. I mean, the dice faces range, I believe, from, 2 to 6 or 3 to 6, and you've got a 1-3. So chances are you'll be able to get things in the setup that you want, and I don't think it breaks the system at all. So it's a very small element of the game, a roll and move mechanic, but it's not like the game is a complete luck fest. And even then, the game hopefully won't take you too long, but I will stress that having the freeform trading and does shorten the game a little bit, but then role playing the shows extends it a little bit as well. And this isn't a quick game. The box says 60 to 90 minutes. Now, I would like to see a time-lapse video of anybody who can play this in 60 minutes. 3 players, maybe. And as if you really know what you're doing. But 60 minutes, no, I don't think that's possible. You're looking at a minimum of 90 minutes for this game. And to be fair, if you've got 4 players that are new, or 5 players even, of which most are new, you're looking at least 2 hours for this. In fact, I've seen games go to 2.5 with 5 players. 5 players can take a while, especially if they're new and you're having fun with the shows and that. And the thing is, it's not 2.5 hours of boredom. Like a lot of Euros are. You're listening to people's shows, you're putting on your own, you're thinking about, let's see, I want to put on the Great Masquerade Wedding later on, I'm going to need this. She's got that, I could trade with her, and you're still thinking about your turn whilst everyone else is doing other things, but the turns are quite quick. Investment. You just buy something and put it on your thing. Somebody could do their turn in 5 seconds, and then it's the next player, and then the next player. So it really isn't that much downtime in it, but I will stress that you are looking at anywhere between 90 minutes to 2.5 hours to play this game, and for some that could be quite a long game for what it is. Certainly once you're more used to it, I think 2 hours is a reasonable estimate, but 5 players you are possibly looking at a bit longer. Now, it does scale well with all player counts, although I would probably say that the higher the player count, the better it is, because you have more dynamic trading, because everybody is trading, 5 people together are trading. You've got lots of different shows, you've got full range of all the nobles on the board, so I think it does play better with more players, but you could still play this with 3 players and have a laugh. I've done that. I just think, let's say the sweet spot is, yet again, the middle of the road, 4 players. I think 4 players is the ultimate sweet spot for time, interactivity, and general engagement. Like I said, interactivity, it is a very interactive game because you are trading with each other, you are auctioning, bidding against each other, you are moving nobles away from and to each other, so there is a good level of interaction for a Euro game, which I must admit you don't see a lot in most modern Euros, but the old Euros of the day did used to give you a reasonable amount of interaction with other players, and I applaud them for that. I wish we saw more of that these days, but I'm just sort of seeing it disappear, all these really dry Euros that come out. Anyway, I digress, that's another time. So, Colosseum. It's a great Euro game. Wolfgang Kramer has, done some pretty good designs over the course of the years, and even though I'm not the biggest fan of his work, this would probably be, I'm going to have to check, but I think this could be my favourite of his work, Wolfgang Kramer. It's one that I've been searching out from Days of Wonder since I played it. And then when the reprint came, it's like, I want a reprint to review. Please let me have a reprint to review. Is it still as I remembered? Played it a few more times now, and it's still as good as I remember. Would I prefer to have the Days of Wonder version? Possibly, because I could substitute the metal coins from anywhere. So maybe I would prefer the Days of Wonder version, but let's face it, it's hard to get hold of. People are going to charge the ends of the earth for it. At least this one is readily available, and still looks fine. Granted, if the artwork's not to your liking, I don't blame you. It's, it's a divisive one, but I wouldn't let that stop you from playing it, because it is a solid Euro, and if, like me, you're into your thematic games, this is a very good thematic Euro, especially if you just immerse yourself in the idea of putting on a show and just having a ball with it. Don't treat it like a dry game. Try those house rules that I mentioned earlier, and I have to admit, it's a shame that we have to house rule 1 or 2 of these things in the game, but, it's an easy house rule to make, and believe me, it makes the game a lot better. So, Colosseum, a decent, light to mid-weight Euro, has a lot of laughs involved if you just treat those caveats with a pinch of salt, decent production quality, good theme, it's a solid Euro, and it's going to remain on my shelf because now I finally have my own copy after trying to get a hold of a Days of Wonder one for ages. So I'm going to give Colosseum a solid 8 roaring lions. Solid game, solid Euro. I recommend, even if you don't want to fork out for it, because it is not the cheapest game in the world, I strongly urge you to give this one a try and see if you like it. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple review. This is Colosseum, and remember, regardless of what show you put on, it's only a show, and this is only a game. Take care, everyone.